Yo, it's your favorite stringer. Favorite stringer, Mains and Crosses right here. Welcome back to the Stringing Business Podcast. I'm your host, Smitty from Mains and Crosses here. Guys, this is like our, sixth episode. We were pre-recording this and just to kind of keep it continuous, having content for you guys week after week. Kind of like, hey, what really goes on behind the stringing room or the pro shop? Or just at your home, if you're a home stringer, right? What I want to talk about today is like, how do brand build their reputation, right? And I work closely with Solinco. Obviously, this is not a paid advertisement or anything like that. They haven't paid me to do anything like that, especially when I give them shout outs. You guys, I've been making videos for quite some time, and dude, every single time I talk about Solinco, it's like all fam, man. It's really, I really love what their brand is about. If I didn't, I wouldn't, push so hard on it. But let's talk about the brand, Solinco. I know they're an old brand. I wish I knew exactly what date they kind of like established, but I knew that we had interactions like ever since like 2014, 2015. I remember it came in just right where they launched the Hyper G, and emailed the rep and say, hey, I'm doing this military functions, hoping to get some strings and some, even if you have brochures, merch, things like that, if you can kind of donate to us, we'll definitely make some purchases too. But they threw me some stuff, and we had a great tournament. I think it was the first time having Hyper G out there. I think one person kind of knew what it was, and they're like, oh, I know Solinco, and I think it was a college player, duh. And he was like, yo, that's pretty dope. And we kind of fell apart a little bit. Obviously, we were building our brand, they were building their brand. And then in 2019, 18, the kind of like the worlds collided, and we started linking up and collaborating. Kind of like, hey, I kind of like what you're doing with your brand, with social media. Since then we've been going pretty hard for 5 years on YouTube, podcasts, Instagram, things like that. Social media was blowing up, and we were the only one who was like, hey, you should check out some Solinco stuff. And we had a chance to meet and talk, and it was great. And ever since then, we've been kind of like family. But like I said, what makes a brand pop, right? What makes a brand like fire? And I feel like the trend always changes every couple, 4 or 5 years. And it's funny because how it changes, you can kind of see it. It's like, what are the kids using? What are the teenagers using? What are the high schoolers using? What are the college kids using? What are the pros using, right? And we're always, we're trained, like, it's a school system that we go through here in the US, but we're always here to kind of like, you gotta have the answer, right? You don't give the imagination to the kid. You're like, hey, here's some numbers, or here's a problem, solve it. And whoever raised their hands first, they're like, oh, they win, because they were either they knew the answer much quicker, things like that, but they end up being, the teacher's pet, or they get a little extra note, and they get a tap on the back, or the coach like, oh, great job, great serve, But what are the kids who are just like, hey, hold up, why is it that answer? Can you explain to me a little more? And sometimes you're like, we don't have time to go over that type of stuff. And why am I talking about the schoolhouse? But I'm talking about this when it comes to branding. Like, sometimes brands is like, hey, we're gonna push this out with celebrities or athletes, things like that, and you guys gonna take it, because all the people who are cool will do this, and those who aren't, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're just not gonna be in the in crowd. So when people associate themselves with some certain brands, it's not just, hey, I got that item, because a Gucci purse or a Gucci wallet can be the same thing you can get from Walmart. It's what that product or what that brand creates once you own it. So if you own a Gucci bag, or you own a Porsche, or you own something high luxury, well, people are going to see you a certain way. They're going to categorize you in that certain way. And people are going to categorize people different ways when they're using different strings or racket and stuff like that. And believe it or not, I've done so many junior tournaments. What brand is popping. Before it was Babala, all the cool kids, because they really didn't sponsor like everybody. So even if you were like doing some junior tournaments, some L5s or whatever, And you saw some kids using Babolat, and they're like, oh, that's the rich kids, parents popping in with them Porsche, Mercedes, G-Wagons, things like that. That's the Babolat kids. That was like 10 years ago. Fast forward now, what is the popping brand right now? How did they create that brand identity? It's Yonex. Hands down, Yonex has done a great job kind of like filling through the gaps, learning from, I'm sure, previous mistakes. How did this brand from, making badminton, things like that, they got some weird shape looking rackets. Before, I can't use this isometric shape racket. I'm not used to it. I'm not gonna use it. And all of a sudden, everybody's using it. How did they do that? Probably the same way Solinco did. They went to the grassroots. They started building their brand, getting trust amongst the young ones. They created their brand organically. They didn't like, hey, you're gonna use this. This is gonna be cool. We're gonna give you the same racket but different color. You're gonna like this. I'm not saying which brand, but the technology stays the same. We're gonna do the same thing, and it's just gonna be famous tennis players and doing flashy things, and we're gonna up the price. But what are you doing for the kids? What are you doing for the youth? And I felt like Solinco and Yonex filled in that gap. They got young players, Shapovalov, Tiafoe, you name it. Osaka made perfect sense. Part Japanese. Nick Kyrgios. Every single one of these players has issues. If you think about it, if you go back to Yonex player, they probably have the most issues, mental issues, or some people say it's daddy problems or mommy problems. There's something that's always going wrong. Mental health, things like that. There's just kids can relate to that. It's like I just want to play tennis and have fun, be stylish. And Yonex, I could have sworn back in the days, PTP, right? Polytour Pro from Yonex, Tennis Warehouse. Like it was like what, $9.95, $10, $11 max, maybe. I think. You know what the price of it is right now? Yonex PTP, it's $20.50 US dollars. That's $20.50 in the US. How within the 5 years they raised their price 100%? It was 100%. It was $9.95 or like $10, and now it's $21 basically. Because of that branding, they built it, and now they can charge that price because all the kids want it now. I definitely felt the pressure this year at Kalamazoo. 2022-23. Man, it's their golden year. And I'm not gonna lie, I told Solinco, I was like, hey, you guys are kind of falling off a little bit, man. You guys are, you guys took your foot off the pedal. And it's not any of their fault too. It's like, hey, it's just like same thing with Nokia and BlackBerry. It's like, we don't want to be categorized. Solinco does not want to be categorized in that they fell off. They did everything right, and somehow it just didn't work out because the technology and the idea changed, the customer changed, the relationship changed. Back in the 70s or 80s, I think like those car salesmen, right? When you hear salesman, it's like, oh my God. There was demand. Baby boomers, there was not enough cars. So these get quick rich schemes, car salesmen, they'll sell lemons. That's why there's anti-lemon laws now. They would just sell anything. Because at the end of the day, it's how to close, how to quickly sell. Fast forward now, it's like, hey, how do you build a relationship? How do you build a brand with a relationship? How do we focus more on the community? I want to throw it back to Web3, crypto, things like that. It's like, hey, how can we integrate that? How can we integrate the people that actually use our product, not just get some test subjects and find some like executives and they're going to make all the decisions, right? Like, hey, we're going to do this shot, we're going to do this, and that because we're the leading expert. Bullshit. Oh my God. This might be my first curse word on this podcast, but Solinco did it right. They started from like sponsoring juniors. And remember I talked to you about like some business, they'll go in the hole. Like they took a negative shot probably in their accounting. Like they probably lost a lot of money building this brand up because they believe in it. It definitely paid off in the last like 5 to 6 years now. I'm sure it's like tenfold. Yonex did the same thing. Obviously a much bigger brand, a lot of more money. But you tell me, how did they, if YTech, right? Love Ivor. YTech is a great string. If they went from their price for like $10 to $20 right now, with no relationship with the clientele, with no, you think that people will buy that for that price? No, because even though the value, well, I say with the string and the brand does not correlate with the value right now. And I'm not saying it could be great string. It could be like, you can do a blind test. It could be a great string. But the value, it's just not far up the chart because they haven't built up the hype. They haven't had enough clientele. They haven't had enough exposure. Yonex and Solinko's been doing this for over decades. Yeah, Yonex can do it less because they scale. You know why? Because they have more income. They have more revenue. They have more money to throw at the problem. He's like, shoot, we want to give these rackets to these players. Let's do it. Solinko did that with their budget. I'm sure it would be like. But you can see it's scalable, right? Even into your business, right? Take small chunks. You start out at $15, $20, $25, $30. Keep pushing up, and then you'll find your limit. When people start coming, maybe that's like, hey, what was the last price that was fair? Then you move down, and you scale again, and you move up again. RPM Blast. I checked out like 3 or 4 top strings at Kalamazoo, and people are like, oh, Kalamazoo, why would I care about K-Zoo? It's a bunch of boys, 16, 18-year-old. They're the future. These are the future players that will be using this string, that will be coaching or going to college, playing collegiate, or going to the pros using these strings. So top 4, RPM Blast, right? Most favorite for its spin, top choice for players like Nadal. Let's talk about branding again. Babolat. Nadal on his way out, still one of the GOATs, right? It's not the string. Now it's the Alcaraz. I mean, he's probably not even using the same type of string, but the Babolat brand, even though it has nothing to do with that particular string, the Pure Arrow, hey, I like those black strings. They're sponsored by Babolat. They're going to use their string. It's cheap. It's free. Why would they buy anything else? Some do. Some people are dual sponsored. They hope be a racket sponsored by Babolat and be stringing with Solinko. Surprisingly, the next one would be, like I said, RPM Blast is $18.95. Dude, that's a solid price. That's a value price, actually. Actually, that's probably one of the price that's a little lower. And I'll tell you why. This is like, I'm doing this in not any particular order, but that's not a bad price. Next one would be Solinko Tour Bite, another popular choice, high spin potentials, durability, things like that. There's a flagship, but I feel like this year people went from soft poly into like kind of more of this, I'm growing up, For a while, it's like all soft poly, Hyper G. Now it's like, Tour Bite's having a big comeback. Retailing at merely $13, right? I think it went up maybe $2 in the last 5 years. I think it originally was like maybe $9.95 or $10 or whatever. But I think right now map price is like $13. That's not a big jump compared to our next string here. Very popular. Yonex PTP. Polytour Pro. It's been around for quite a while. It's a yellow string, blue string, black string. They make different colors right now, but yellow is the big one. $20.50. I said it before, $20.50. My goodness. How at one point was at $9 at $20 now? It's that branding. It's that value. They don't even care how the string plays, like, because every single player that's seen using Yonex and all the friends are using it, they want to be with their friends. It's like, shoot, if the players are using PTP, I want to use that. It's $20. I don't care, Daddy. Go buy me that. That's the cool string right now. Use that. What's that green string? The neon green everybody's using. Hyper G. I gotta use that. It's all about that trend. Alu Power, right? That's another string. It's a classic one. Alu Power is a classic one. You can kind of see this with Wilson players, obviously, because they're sponsored with that. They can get Luxilon for a certain price. But those who play with Luxilon, they tend to stay with that brand. You know, if you're a Wilson player, you're forever a Wilson player. I figure if you're a head player, things like that, you might move around here and there, bobble out here and there. But Wilson, if your parents play with Wilson rackets, you're playing with Wilson rackets, and because you like it, you know, it's a classic racket. Same thing with Alu Power. Sitting at $19.95, so you're looking at maybe almost $20. That seems to be the solid price for some premier strings. And we're not gonna go much into Luxilon and stuff like that because, you know, you already know they're a classic brand. You know, if you guys think they just did tennis strings, you're wrong. They do a lot of stuff. Do some research on it. Out of those four, I felt like Solinco and Yonex, as I mentioned, have done a lot of groundwork in the last decade, and they deserve it. Wilson spent money on certain things. I know they got taken over by Amerisport, taken over by another Chinese company. A lot of structural change in their business plan. You know, I don't see them marketing too much with the kids. It used to be. My goodness, 2 years ago, Kalamazoo, everybody was using Wilson. Clash, Blades, Pro Staff. 95% of the players at Kazoo in the future right now are using Yonex. Let's get serious. You know, I would say number 1 and 2 strings would be Hyper G and Yonex PTP this year, hands down. I barely saw any Alu Power, and they're hurting. God, Luxilon, Wilson, they're like, what can we do? What can we do to get this market share back? You're gonna have to spend the next 10 years doing it, buddy. They have the fun, they have the marketing for it. It's just like, who's in your camp, Wilson? Who's in your camp, Head? Who's in your camp? All these other brands, right? What are you doing for the youth? You can't use, I was the classic brand. You can't use that, I'm Chanel, or I'm a Louis Vuitton, or I'm, you know, Goya. You know, you can't use that anymore because they're like, nah, you're gonna have to do something for us. My dad and grandpa's long gone. What are you doing for this generation? You know, it's funny because it's the biggest brand that has that uppity high nose thing. Bob a lot like before. It was like, hey, you would have to be top 1 or 2 or 3 to be even considered for sponsorship or things like that. Same thing with Wilson, they were giving them out, but they stopped. I don't know what happened. And just the same thing. I'm worried about Solinco because, like, hey, don't put your foot off the pedal. You know, we're all getting older. I'm getting older. I can only see it from so many views. You know, I can only do so much. And you check my old podcasts and videos, I talk about this all the time. Like, hey, a change is coming. And it could be good, it could be bad. You know, not everybody wants to pay $20.50 for PTP because you know dang well you can get a WD strings for $80 a reel. Why are people paying $20 for poly? $21 for poly? Why? And with you out there, stringer, still charging $15-20, you want to change it for $5, you're like, oh, I'm scared. Why? You've done your work. You deserve to go up. Why is it Yonex? Why is it Solinco? Why is it Luxilon, Wilson, Head? Why are they only allowed to go up? You do way much more. You string their stuff. Why are you cutting yourself short? These are 4 top strings out there, man. RPM Blast, Solinco Torbright, Hyper G stuff, PTP, Alu Power. Everything else you can just push to the side. But think about it. Why is it okay for Yonex to go from $10 a pack to $20 within the next 5 years? How long have you been stringing? How long have you been that price? If you like the content, definitely hit me up in the comments, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I hope this helped because I want you to see the analogy. It's really not everybody can string. Come on now. Everybody can string. I feel like that Ratatouille. Everybody can cook. Chef Gusto. Everybody can string, right? But it's that relationship you build with your clientele. It's gonna tell you how you're gonna advance in the future. How can you raise your price? How can you raise your status? How can you be the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, the Hermes, the Goya? How can you be in that status versus like, hey, I'm just gonna stay here, keep my prices the same, stay low, shoot for the stars, guys. And I think that's what every brand should do. Shoot for the stars. Like, hey, if you miss it, that's great. You know what? We'll try again. But never forget your roots. You know, a lot of these brands, the high brands, they're losing market shares because they forgot what it means to be a regular old stringer or a regular old player. They lost touch. So don't lose touch, guys. Explain to me, guys. Explain to me why PTP. Am I right? Am I right? Is it because like players like Tiafo, Nick Kyrgios, all these cool ass. I mean, seriously, they're cool players. Shapovalov, Osaka. Who else? I can name a bunch of them. Just check out all the Yonex players. They got some swag about them. There's people who care about them. Like I said, all got mental issues. But that's life. We all got issues. And Yonex is not afraid to support those. You know, they stayed behind their players. So just think about it. That was the reason why they were able to raise their prices. That was the reason why they can go from 10 to 20. Easy day. Peace out, guys.